Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Mullen, and on behalf of ACRL and Choice, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Campus-Wide Collaboration, Students, Faculty, and Librarians Unite for Global Marketability, sponsored by Mango Languages. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from ACRL and Choice that addresses new ideas, developments, and products of interest to the academic library community. Free to users, these structured 60-minute live presentations provide the opportunity for interactive discussions of important new issues and developments in academic librarianship by librarians, vendors, authors, and other interested stakeholders. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of the webinar software. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. Along the left-hand side, you will also see a Q&A panel that you can use to submit questions or comments. We'll spend some time responding to your questions during the program, so please feel free to submit these throughout. And finally, please note that today's program will be recorded and all registrants will receive follow-up instructions on how to access the archived version. We'll soon be joined by an impressive panel of thought leaders, but first, let me introduce our webinar sponsor, Mango Languages. This small company is extremely dedicated to their core purpose of enriching lives with language and culture, whether on campus through the library or via school and public libraries, corporations, home schools, and individual learners. Mango offers over 70 foreign language and ESL courses focused on controversial and film-based interactive learning. In addition, Mango now offers over 30 culturally thematic specialty courses, including unique offerings such as Spanish for librarians, French wines and cheeses, medical Spanish, and soon to be released, a Shakespearean insults course. Representing Mango today, along with introducing our webinar presenters, is Katie Klausner, the Academic Segment Manager for Mango Languages. With that, I'd like to turn things over to Katie.
Thank you, Laura. Mango Languages is so excited to sponsor our second industry webinar for higher education and academic libraries. We appreciate everything that our good friends at ACRL and Choice have done to make this webinar happen. So just a quick logistical reminder, and Laura already said it, but in case folks are joining us a few minutes late, if you do have questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and just put them in the Q&A, and we will do our best to address them at the end. So today's webinar features short presentations from 4 remarkable and inspirational leaders. These women will each share their knowledge, insight, and practices that they are most passionate about pertaining to language and culture learning on campus. So before we get started, let me briefly introduce you to our presenters. We will kick off our webinar with Amelia Friedman, who is the Executive Director of the Student Language Exchange, an organization that she founded during her sophomore year of college. She is an active advocate of language learning, writing about global power structures in higher education for Forbes, Huffington Post, USA Today, and her own personal blog. She is currently conducting an in-depth exploration of language valuation in college curricula to be published in 2015. Additionally, Amelia has spoken about language education at numerous academic conferences, TEDx, the U.S. Capitol, and more. She is also a self-proclaimed language nerd, having spent time studying 7 different languages. Following Amelia, we will then hear from our student panelist, Katie Saviano, who is a sophomore at Tufts University studying international relations and Arabic. She is a graduate of the United World Colleges and credits her love of language to her 2 years spent at a bilingual high school in Costa Rica. Katie is a recipient of the Nistley Scholarship through the U.S. State Department, and Katie's time spent studying Arabic in Morocco firmly convinced her of the power of language to advance cultural understanding. Katie is also connected to Student Language Exchange as the campus director at Tufts University and is very committed to providing language learning opportunities for all of Tufts students. She is also involved in the Tufts Refugee Assistance Program, a group that is focused on sustainable development in Latin America and education for public inquiry and international citizenship, through which Katie conducted research on civil society and youth activism in Tunisia. This past summer, she interned with Seeds of Peace, an international NGO focused on conflict resolution. Our third speaker today will be Martha Parker, who is the librarian in residence for the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, where she first worked in cataloging and then in special collections for the past 2 years creating digital collections. Martha received her MLIS in 2011 from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where she also received the prestigious Academic and Cultural Enrichment Scholarship, a Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program funded by a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the LIS department at the university. Martha also holds a BA in Business Administration and Elementary School Certification. A former educator and an experienced business executive, Martha has led several local and national committees since the beginning of her graduate school studies. Also, since 2012, Martha has led the Reforma Organizational Development and New Chapters Committee and served with ACRL's Diversity Committee, which she now chairs. She has been a driving force in promoting the 2012 ACRL's Diversity Standards for Academic Libraries, and soon we will hear more about her amazing efforts. Finishing up our webinar today is Elsa Amanatidu. I'm not sure if I pronounced it, so she will correct me if I didn't get that right. Elsa joined the Brown University Classics Department in 2001 after many years working as a language expert, teacher, and trainer in Greece and the UK. From 1995 until 2001, she was the head of Modern Greek Studies and deputy head at Hellenic College of London, an independent co-ed bilingual school. Since 1989, Elsa has been an examiner and principal examiner for GCSE in the UK, A-level and O-level public examinations in Modern Greek. She is currently serving as expert consultant for Pearson's, UK, and is a member of CIEA, the Chartered Institute of Educational Assessors. Elsa has also taught all levels of Modern Greek, including courses in special topics and seminars on MFL pedagogy and graduate seminars of SLA. Her professional interests include testing and evaluation, the application of literature, music, and drama activities in foreign language teaching, and the intersection between language teaching and learning with emerging technologies. Along with being a faculty member in the Classics Department, Elsa has also been the director of the Center for Language Studies at Brown University since 2008. These ladies exhaust me with their accomplishments, and I am so excited to hear them and share their stories. So without further ado, let's start off with Amelia Friedman from Student Language Exchange.
Thank you, Katie, and I'm so honored to be on this panel with such awesome women from across the language learning ecosystem. So I actually just graduated in May from a university that was 10% international, and our domestic students had rich cultural heritages as well. All in all, our university hosted students speaking natively over 70 different languages, and diversity was really everywhere. I'm sure many of you host similarly diverse communities on your campuses. It's incredible, and universities have the potential to be such rich hubs of diversity and cultural exchange. So unfortunately, language learning doesn't always reflect this opportunity. In fact, only 8.6% of American students study a language, period. And if you look at what languages they're learning, over 3/4 are studying French, Spanish, or German. These languages, plus English, are spoken natively by less than 13% of our global population. So some might say, but Amelia, the majority of the world speaks English, right? Yes, a fourth of the global population speaks English. But what about the other 5.4 billion people sharing our planet? If we're claiming to educate the next generation of leaders, we should ask ourselves, are we equipping our students with the linguistic and the cultural skills they need to be successful in an increasingly globalized world? So, if we want more students learning languages, we have a few big challenges to overcome. The first is attitude. We need to show students the opportunity in learning languages. At the Student Language Exchange, we do just that. We capitalize on the community that's already on campuses, that diverse student body that so many of us see around our universities. And we build programs in underrepresented languages where international students can introduce their peers to their language, to their culture, and to the doors that languages can open. But then the second real challenge is resources and providing those resources for students to learn languages. And languages that are already offered at our universities, those are resources like films, comic books, and other cultural artifacts. And where libraries can really make an impact and really complement the formal curriculum is in those underrepresented languages, in those languages not offered by the school. There, libraries can be hubs for learning resources like tools, different types of tools to learn languages or to complement classroom instruction, using tools like Mango to broaden the language learning opportunities on your campus. So I'm curious about what sort of resources your library offers for language learners. So I'd like to ask you to take a moment to fill out a quick poll that I'm not seeing quite yet. Should pop up in a second. And if there's something that your library offers and isn't on this list, please type it into the chat window there that everyone will be able to see. Yes, we love Mango. Seeing a couple Mango fans. Okay, let's take another 15 seconds. And if you have many, I apologize that the poll only allows you to choose one of the resources. I know many of your libraries offer all or many. Okay. Well, it sounds like so many of your libraries are already offering an incredible collection of different resources. So I'm going to move on to this slide, but I'd love for us to continue this conversation in the Q&A at the end of this webinar. So one of the things that we learned in building the Student Language Exchange is that libraries have the potential to bring all the stakeholders in a campus's language learning ecosystem together. Faculty refer their students to use resources at libraries if they know about them, which isn't always the case, unfortunately. But then also administrators push subjects that don't fit under the curriculum into the library umbrella, and resource providers like Mango work with libraries to make their software accessible to the entire student body. So innovation in language learning really does happen in libraries. However, we see too often that stakeholders don't know about the resources that are available at academic libraries. There isn't enough noise. It's a tough situation because librarians are already working too hard, you know that. But what I'd like to challenge the folks listening to this to consider is what role your library can play in promoting language learning. Are there ways that your library can add a new dimension to language education at your university? So I'm going to end with a short story. Bengali is the 7th most spoken language worldwide, spoken by 3 times as many people natively as French. But in the United States, only 97 American students were studying it at last count. So here at the Student Language Exchange, we started offering Bengali to our students. And they got super excited about the language, and where did they go? They went to the library. They continued to study through resources like Mango, like books, and so many other things that the library had provided for them, videos, etc. And now they're building a skill that very few American students possess. That's awesome. And it's all because of an academic library and those resources that they wouldn't have had access to elsewhere. So while building the student language exchange at Brown, we learned that all the resources were there for language instruction. Excellent professors, incredible supplementary resources through the library, passionate students who are looking for global experiences, fellowship opportunities, research opportunities. I can go on and on and on. We just need to be working in concert and finding points of collaboration. Students worked with faculty to run introductory programs. Libraries provided supplementary resources that allowed for deeper academic exploration. Student innovation with librarian support created the glue that allowed all stakeholders to come together. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to the fabulous Katie Saviano, one of our all-star Student Language Exchange campus coordinators, to talk a little bit more from the student perspective.
Thank you so much, Amelia. When I arrived at Tufts University, I expected to find certain resources for language learning available. Language tables in the dining hall, daily opportunities for engagement outside of the classroom, as well as language practice partners. At Tufts, there are language tutors available, and that's a resource that students widely use, but I was expecting a little bit of a less structured program for active language engagement. As well, I was expecting a succinct, well-compiled list of resources for beginner language students, such as videos, cartoons, books for each language level that would provide supplementary material to in-class language learning. Going off of that, at Tufts, the language resources that I've identified include roundtables once a week for languages. I study Arabic, so I found roundtables for Arabic, office hours, weekly tutoring available, and conversation hours set up by the different language houses on campus. However, these were not regularly scheduled, and they weren't catered towards my needs in Spanish, but rather the needs of students in first and second year Spanish. And then I also found that supplementary language learning materials were provided by language professors. So from all of the resources I've identified, there are many different umbrellas for language learning at Tufts. However, the resources for language learning are not concentrated, but scattered between our different language departments. At Tufts, we have two language departments, the Romance language department and the German, Russian, and Asian language department, as well as the Academic Resource Center, which houses all of the on-campus language tutoring, and then the Media Center at our Tisch Library. So I found that we have all of these incredible resources, but the library can really serve as the connector system between different departments and programs, supplying the resources that will enhance on-campus language learning. At Tufts, there is a humanities research and instruction librarian that specializes in languages and literature. I've known about the research librarians, but never equated them with language instruction. Only in preparation for this presentation did I think to reach out to the research librarian that specialized in languages and literature to learn more about the resources for language learning at Tufts. Furthermore, when surveying my peers, professors' office hours seem to be the preferred method of receiving support. However, librarians can capitalize on the already established relationships between students and professors by working directly with language classes. In some of my other classes, research librarians have come to class and introduced themselves. This has happened in my sociology class as well as my English class. However, this hasn't happened in one of the 5 language classes that I've been enrolled in across the 2 different language departments. Librarians should reach out to the language departments and make themselves and their resources known. When students are interested in learning languages that aren't offered at Tufts, they don't have access to offered office hours and much less professors. With my experience working on the Tufts team of the Student Language Exchange, I realized the extent of interest in languages not taught at Tufts. Here, librarians and libraries must form the initial base of support for these students. Looking forward, librarians have the resources to be at the forefront of language support on campuses. I want to end with a short story. At Tufts, the languages of Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, and Russian were started as student-run introductory classes. Students generated enough interest in these languages to the point that they became language programs and an entirely new university department. It was student initiative that brought new languages and a venue for increased cultural learning. These language initiatives and initiatives like them are made possible with the access of resources that libraries provide. With the help of on-campus libraries, students can be empowered to further language learning and increase cross-cultural communication. Thank you so much. Now we'll get the privilege of hearing from Martha at the University of Arkansas.
Thank you, Katie. The question is, how can we properly educate future leaders, support global cooperation, and improve cultural sensitivities? My response will be through the understanding of diversity, culture, and language. As mentioned before by Katie Klosner, I am the chair of the ACRL's Diversity Committee. A few of my committee members are currently attending this webinar. In 2012, the ACRL Diversity Committee approved the ACRL's diversity standards, which are intended to emphasize the need and obligation to serve and advocate for our constituencies, diverse constituencies. As such, they are intended to apply to all libraries supporting academic programs at institutions of higher education. Briefly, the ACRL diversity standards are composed of 11 standards in total. Out of those 11, standard number 6 refers to diversity of language. That standard reads, librarians and library staff shall support the preservation and promotion of linguistic diversity and work to foster a climate of inclusion aimed at eliminating discrimination and oppression based on linguistic or other diversities. How can we do this? I will say we should apply current standard practices of foreign language instruction through the use of the 5 Cs. These are communication, culture, connections with other disciplines, comparisons with students' native languages and cultures, and use of foreign language in communities outside the classroom. Some specific examples on how to implement this standard are also providing and advocating for the provision of information, reference, referrals, instruction, collection management, and other services in the language appropriate to our constituencies, including the use of interpreters. Master reference interviews techniques that reflect an understanding of the role of language in the client's culture. Acknowledge the efforts of English language learners or the constituent with speech impediments. Some of the U of A's best practices for language diversity can be demonstrated through this specific site posted on the slide. I am talking about this site about library linguistics. One of the things that we do is to provide the information of the staff members who happen to speak different languages and make it available to patrons. That way, students, faculty, and staff can receive the information and assistance in their native language. Another thing is to make the resources available to the Office of Study Abroad and International Exchange in efforts to assist all of the students who will be traveling abroad. The business department makes a huge use of those resources at our university. One of my favorites is a program called Latif Julia. And what Latif Julia is an informal social and conversation gathering for Spanish speakers. Every Friday around 5:30 p.m., the students meet informally to speak in Spanish and being able to practice that conversational piece. Thank you for listening. And the next presenter is the director for the Center for Language Studies at Brown University, Elsa Amanati-Du. Take it away, Elsa.
Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from Providence, Rhode Island, with sub-zero temperatures. Thank you, Marta. It is, I think, a fortuitous or perhaps a manufactured coincidence that Mango Languages is sponsoring this webinar during International Education Week, which is a joint initiative of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education. International Education Week, just like the internationalization initiatives that have sprung around campuses in the U.S. in the last decade, is part of a nationwide effort to promote programs that prepare Americans for a global environment, nurture global citizens, and attract future leaders from abroad to study, learn, and exchange experiences in the United States. Now, the assumption behind these initiatives must be that intentionalization is good for you. It is an inclusive endeavor. It highlights of justice or injustice, hoping that we create in this way a more democratic, fair, and prosperous society. Marta alluded to that when she talked about the diversity standards of ACRL earlier on. Before I turn to the main point of this short presentation, which is identifying the challenges facing all of us who are working to promote internationalization through transcultural and translingual education, as well as share resources and best practices, and with the word prosperous still echoing in our ears, let me turn to a 2013 essay called The Teaching of the Arts and Humanities at Harvard College, Mapping the Future. In this essay, scholars such as Homi Bhabha, Emma Dench, and David Armitage, among others, discuss the hostility or skepticism that humanities seem to face when it comes to their usefulness as a discipline, the economic and vocational arguments we're so used to hearing. University administrators do not seem to think that the humanities are very successful or competitive, and past closures of foreign language and literature departments all over the country certainly attest to this. According to the essay, experience and recent data have demonstrated that university disciplines must do at least one of three things to draw the support of university administrators. To be successful, the discipline must either, 1, be devoted to the study of money, 2, be capable of attracting serious research money, or 3, demonstrably promise that its graduates will make significant amounts of money. The university study of the humanities, literatures, languages, and cultures in particular, is thought to score 0 on each count. Now, the number of students who concentrate on the humanities and foreign languages and literatures seem to decline in tandem with the decrease in funding. And this decrease is the big challenge we all face. In fiscal year 2013, the National Endowment for the Humanities was funded at $139 million, down $28.5 million from fiscal year 2010. As a result, it certainly seems to me that the more international we become, the fewer languages we are able to offer. So the question we're here to tackle is, how can we enhance our global engagement strategies that are informed by educational, alongside economic and political experiences, and respond to the needs and research interests of faculty and students for whom internationalization includes operating smoothly across several languages and cultures. So here's what the CLS attempts to do here at Brown, the Center for Language Study, in collaboration with other stakeholders, such as the Office of Global Engagement, the Dean of the College's office, the graduate school, and, of course, the library. I will first talk about some general resources before I turn to the most important ones that are inter- and intra-campus collaborations. And let me add that it was our librarian here at Brown who put together a very useful resources portal to accompany the webpage of our methods course. The methods course is a graduate seminar that I teach that introduces graduate students who are going to teach language here at Brown to second language acquisition research. Unfortunately, because that portal is also part of our learning management system, it is password protected. However, do not despair. I have actually given a link at the end of my slide. So if we move to the next slide, great. You can see that at the bottom you see a link to the Language Consortium webpage where all the links and resources I'm going to be talking about are listed there. Professional organizations, they are a great resource, and there are multiple language organizations, the American Association of Applied Linguistics, the American Association of University Supervisors and Coordinators and Directors of Language Programs, the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Languages, special interest groups, language-specific associations, area studies associations. Those websites offer a wealth of information. From registries of qualified individuals who may help with language-specific questions, to portals that include arsenals of web-based tasks, audio and video files that will enhance class-based but also independent study. There are reviews of textbooks. A wealth of material can be found in those web pages. Also, language centers and consortia. Centers such as the Center of Applied Linguistics includes resource portals with briefs and digests, databases, directories, factoids, links publications, resource archives, and of course, for the less commonly taught languages which do not get the visibility that they deserve so often, I would like to draw your attention to the web page of the National Council for the Teaching of the Less Commonly Taught Languages, the NCLTICL. Another very useful resource is international educational exchange organizations, which together with Office of International Programs, and we have those in all of our campuses, they can prove a valuable resource for directing students and faculty to language and culture immersive programs. One organization that we have benefited a lot in the last few years is the Institute of International Education, which works in collaboration with the Fulbright Foreign Language Teaching Assistant Program. The program, which is known through the acronym FLTA, provides opportunities for young English teachers from all over the world to refine their teaching skills and broaden their knowledge of American culture and society while strengthening the instruction of foreign languages at colleges and universities in the United States. And thanks to this program, we have had Fulbright scholars who have visited the campus, and they have already talked, they have taught their native language. We have had Hausa, Swahili, Yoruba, and we were able to benefit from their presence, and they also benefited from their presence here at Brown. I am going to finish with two very important collaborations, since this seems to be the topic of the day. One which is an inter-campus collaboration, and one which is intra-campus. Let me start with the inter-campus collaboration first. In 2009, to give you a little background, the Consortium for Language Teaching and Learning put together a committee comprising of language resource and language study center directors in order to produce a major position paper on foreign languages. This paper that came out of this committee offered some proposals to support language initiatives on university campuses. And those proposals had the word share in them. One of them was collaboration and shared resources in less commonly taught languages. The proposal came out of the realization that out of the 100 or so languages collectively taught across institution members of the consortium, only 6 were taught at all 10 schools of the consortium. As a result, the committee suggested that institutions should develop programs to share the languages they have that other institutions do not have. The languages they decided to concentrate on to begin with were Aztec, Zulu, Yoruba, Bengali, Indonesian, Greek, Turkish, Vietnamese. And currently there are language sharing programs between Cornell, Yale, and Brown via teleconferencing software. So students on a certain campus are able to attend a real language class in real time, but through virtual presence. The last collaboration, the collaboration which is intra-campus, really has to do with an untapped resource, which is our undergraduate population. And this will bring me to the conclusion of my presentation. I think very often we underestimate the importance of the human factor, the presence of someone with near-native speaker fluency that can help speed up second language acquisition and promote the social-linguistic awareness that can only be constructed within a community of interlocutors. So I would like to go back to the start. I would like to go back to the internationalization initiatives of our campuses and see how we can utilize them for our purpose. At Brown, these initiatives built upon what is already an extensive international community of faculty, students, and scholars from over 90 countries. The last count, we had a cohort of international students which stood at 1,500. There is an amazing untapped potential in this diverse population. So campus initiatives such as the Brown Language Society with weekly conversations in several languages which are led by students for students, or the Language Exchange, which is the program that the amazing Amelia Friedman founded here at Brown, are a great resource, especially in the absence of curricular offerings in those languages. The Student Language Exchange in particular here at Brown identified undergraduate native speakers of languages which were not represented in our curriculum and afforded them the opportunity to share their language and culture in informal but rigorous ways. We are currently running student-led programs in Bengali, Tagalog, Amharic, and Macedonian, and we are pleased to report that we have just finished a round of interviews with a view to offering Ukrainian, Finnish, Shona, and Bulgarian next semester. And on that positive note, I would like to hand the microphone over to Katie again to round off the discussion.
Thank you, Elsa. And yes, we have 2 Katies today. This is Katie Klausner with Mango Languages. Thank you so much, all 4 of you. So amazing. And we already have a few questions that have come in. And I would invite our participants to also post some questions in the Q&A. So in essence, if we were doing this live at ACRL or at ALA, the floor would be open for folks to ask panelists to talk further, or if you have any specific questions. So here's the first question that came through, and it's about student language exchange. The question is, they're curious what colleges this program is at, and if they were interested in hosting or having student language exchange on their campus, how do they make that happen? I think either Katie or Amelia can take this.
Hi, this is Amelia. So we're currently operating at Brown, Brandeis, Tufts, and Columbia, and we're we're going to be at 2 more universities in the fall that we should be announcing that within the next couple of weeks. If you're interested in talking about whether the student language exchange would be a good fit for your university, you can email me at amelia@studentlanguageexchange.org.
Thank you. And a kind of technical question, which may also help with that last question. You should see at the bottom of your webinar screen a web links, which offers you links to a variety of the different sources that our presenters spoke on today, and in there is also a link to the Student Language Exchange. And we did get another question where someone was asking for Elsa's names of the organizations and links and where to find them, and that you can find in this web link section. Also, when this PowerPoint and the recording is sent to you, that live link that Elsa referred to on her screen right here, well, I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but will be made available. Okay, now we have a question for Martha at the University of Arkansas. Martha, could you please repeat the 5 C's? And actually, that I loved that as well and wrote them down quickly, but go ahead and repeat them, as this person was able to get 2 of the 5 but wanted to make sure they had all of them. And again, anyone else want to post some questions, please feel free to do so in the Q&A. Go ahead, Martha.
Sure. The 5 C's are first, communication; second, culture; third, connections with other disciplines; 4, comparisons with students' native languages and cultures; and the 5th, and use of the foreign language in communities outside the classroom.
So I want to just make sure, because there was some echo, that was communication, culture,
Correct. Yes, communication.
connection with other disciplines on campus.
Correct.
The comparison with students, I didn't catch the rest of that. Comparison with students, what did you say? Their native language and their culture?
Mm-hmm.
And then communities was the 5th C?
Right.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, another question for Martha at the University of Arkansas. This is in regards, I believe, to your discussion on library linguists. Is bilingual in the job description, or is it a requirement, or did you just get lucky to have so many bilingual librarians?
Great question. Well, it's not a requirement, but it is encouraged. And I think part of it is luck, but the university does a lot to promote multilingualism on campus. So yes, in a way, it's a combination of both. But we also happen to have quite a few librarians who speak different languages.
Great. Let's see, we have, so the question in regards to the 5 C's. Back to you, Martha. You are popular right now.
I'm popular.
You're popular. Aren't these the same 5 C's of the communicative approach to learning proposed by Savignon in 2002? That's a good librarian question right there.
Yes. Well, in particular, my 5 C's came from an article by Curtin and Dahlberg published in 2004. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is similar to others.
Excellent. All right. Do any of the presenters have questions for each others or any other things that you wish to share before we end? We've got about 5 more minutes, and we still have folks on the line. I don't think I have any other questions. Let me look through my panel. I think I'm good, and we are snowy also here in Michigan. I don't know if the rest of the world is buried, but I think we're good, so I'm going to pass it back over to Laura with ACRL Choice. But before I do, just want to thank again these amazing presenters, couldn't have done it without you. And again, you continue to enrich lives with language and culture, which we applaud you, and we're so thankful to be connected with you and helping to spread the good word of language and culture learning. And also thanks to ACRL Choice for making this webinar happen. And now to you, Laura.
Great. Thanks, Katie. I'd also like to give our presenters a virtual round of applause for spending some time with us today and sharing some really great info. We appreciate your time and your insights. Just a reminder, we have recorded today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from ACRL and Choice that will include instructions on how to access the archived